Hi friends, welcome back to 3 Barrow Farm. Well, the rain has finally stopped. We've had rain pretty much all week consistently. We've had a huge amount of rainfall and everything's been really soggy. But the sun is, well, it's in and out today, but it's a clear day finally, and I need to walk around my garden and figure out where I'm putting everything this coming season. I've already made my first furrow where I'm going to be planting some carrot seed, so we're going to be doing that today. And I have an order from the Diggers Club, which we are going to be opening today and figuring out where I'm going to be planting my potatoes this month. So let's get on with it. So here I have my order of potatoes from the Diggers Club. Now I have noticed that a lot of my favorite online shops are running out of potatoes. So if you haven't done your potato order yet, I highly recommend you get onto it soon. I was very lucky to find some Desirees at Diggers because these are one of our favorite potatoes to grow and eat. Now I have got some Desirees inside that have started to sprout from our harvest last year, but I always like to get some disease-free seed potatoes to plant in my garden every year. I have had a few years where I haven't purchased potatoes and I've just planted what I had inside from the season prior. Now I'd be pretty safe to plant potatoes that I have grown in my garden that were originally from seed potatoes that I've purchased. But you've got to be careful with store purchased potatoes. They might have some disease that comes with them. So just be aware of that. So we've got our Desiree potatoes, which are a Dutch potato, and these are a fantastic all-round potato, but we absolutely love these roasted. They are good for mashing and for salads as well. Next we have Nicola potatoes. So I got one pack of these. It was actually in a 3-pack together. So I got 3 bags and they were reduced even more. So that was an exciting find. I haven't seen that on the Diggers Club before, but perhaps they do it. So Nicola potatoes are really buttery potatoes. They're really nice and they are an all-round potato. Again, like the Desiree, they can be used for most dishes. Next, I've got the Dutch cream. Now, there was Dutch cream in the set of 3 that I purchased, and I also got another lot as well because Dutch creams are another of our favourite potatoes for roasting. They're also great for chips, boiling and baking. So these are more your roasting, baking potatoes. And lastly, in the 3 that I purchased together, I got White Star, which I've never grown before, but this came in the collection of the 3. And it says these are ideal for boiling, baking, and crisp chips. So another quite similar to the Dutch cream. Now, all of my potatoes are indeterminate potatoes, and this means that the tubers are going to grow as the plant grows up. So what you can do is make quite a deep hole in the ground, plant your potato in there, cover it a little bit, but leave some of the hole to cover up as the plant grows. And then when it reaches the top of the bed, you can actually put more soil around it and mound soil around it or compost around the plant, and it's going to produce more potatoes as it goes up. So you could even put straw around it, anything that's going to keep the sunlight from penetrating in. It will continue to grow potatoes as the vine grows upwards. So in past years, I've planted my potatoes in various rows in my garden. Behind me where I've had my brassicas is one of the spots that I generally plant a lot of my potatoes just because it's always been ready at the time. I have quite a bit of work to do to try and find where I'm going to be planting these and prepare the soil. And because I haven't been gardening much these past few months while I've been healing from surgery, I'm a bit behind. So my idea is to get a piece of paper and make a bit of a map and sort of mark out where I think things should go. We've also got some changes going to be happening in the garden. So I can't plant my potatoes in any areas that might be disturbed. So I need to be aware of that as well. The best time to plant your potatoes is between August and October. Ideally, you want to wait for the frost to pass, but once the potatoes start to sprout up from the ground, I just put a sheet over it at night time to protect from the frost. Your potatoes will require a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. So you want to find an area that has full sunlight in your garden. You can even grow your potatoes in a pot or a grow bag that are at least 40 centimeters deep. So you don't need a garden bed to grow these vegetables. Potatoes love aged manure, so make sure you pop some manure down onto your garden, and compost will be great as well. Now you'll want to chit your potatoes before you plant them. Now with these Desirees here, I don't have any eyes coming up. So I actually want to see some eyes sprouting out before I plant these in the ground. So very rarely do I get seed potato where it hasn't already started to produce eyes. But when they don't, I just put them in a warm area and then these will eventually start to produce eyes. Then once they're starting to produce eyes, I could put them in a shallow tray and face the eyes upwards and keep them in a cool spot out of direct sunlight. And within 2 to 4 weeks, the green shoots will develop. So we're aiming to have shoots of around 1 to 2 centimeters before we plant our potatoes. You don't want your shoots to be too long. So I have some that are massively long in my storage cupboard, and these ones we're just going to eat. But I have got some inside that are probably a bit over 2 centimeters, but they'll be good to go in the garden now. Whereas I'm going to leave these ones for the moment while I prepare the area where I'm going to eventually plant them. Now the instructions here say to plant them at least 10 centimeters deep. I like to plant mine 15 to 20 centimeters deep, but as I said, I only fill up that hole a certain amount, and then as the plant comes up, I'll continue to fill the hole. I also like to leave at least 30 centimeters between each tuber, although this says to sow them 40 centimeters apart. Now your potatoes can take up to about 90 to 110 days until they're ready. And you'll know that they're ready when the plants start to turn yellow and die. This is when you're going to harvest your potatoes. I've just noticed that the White Star potatoes say that they will be ready between 85 to 110 days, whereas the Desiree will be ready somewhere between 100 to 120. The Dutch Cream, however, will be ready somewhere between 100 and 130 days, and the Nicola potatoes will be ready somewhere between 90 to 110 days. But the indication is when that plant starts to yellow off. So I'll just keep this box of potatoes inside until I'm ready to plant them. I'll keep them out of direct sunlight because the eyes will get longer and longer if they're seeing sunlight. So I'm going to put them in a darker room or in a cupboard or in the hallway of our house where the sunlight doesn't hit, and they'll hopefully be ready to plant in a week or 2. Okay, friends, now I have an area down here that I've prepared for planting my carrot seed. Now I have received seed from 2 lovely viewers. I've received some yellow carrot seed and some Kuroda seed. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I will put them both on the screen. I have got some carrot seed on its way from the seed collection, so I'll be doing succession sowing and lots of sowing of carrots this year. So this will just be my first sowing of carrot seed. So I've got some space all the way down this Rio here to plant my carrot seed. I've cleared out anything that was in the way except for this kale here, which I'm going to let go to seed so I can collect seed from this one. And on the other side of this Rio, I've got my sweet peas growing along here. So the sweet peas are going to climb up this Rio here while The carrots are going to go down deep into the soil. Now, as I mentioned before, I like to make a furrow in my garden. So I've come along here and I have made a furrow, and the rain has poured down on this space. So it's nice and wet now. If it wasn't wet, I would come along and water this section that I'm going to be sowing my seeds into. So I'm just going along and fixing this up a little bit because we did have some heavy rain at times, and I'm just making sure that my furrows are deep enough. Okay, now we're going to sprinkle the seed in. Now you want to try and be sparing with the seed, but you can also come along later and thin this out. But I want to be mindful that I'm not wasting seed either. So I'm just slowly going along and adding the seed into the ground. Thank you so much to my kind viewers for sending me this carrot seed. Now, I like to put just a very light layer of compost or seed raising mix. I do find the seed raising mix to be fantastic, just to put a small thin layer over the top, because our carrot seed doesn't want to be buried very deeply. So I'm just going to go along and just sprinkle over the top of the seed, just until I can't see the seed, but I'm just sprinkling it very lightly. Now, we shouldn't let the soil where the carrot seeds are being sown dry out. So lots of people put planks over the top of where they have sown their carrot seed. And I've tried this year after year and it works really well. You will want to keep an eye on your seed, because as soon as it starts sprouting, you're going to need to take these planks off. So checking them every couple of days would be ideal. Now, the germination can take anywhere from 5 to 21 days. So it is quite a long period of time that carrot seed can take to germinate and actually see those seedlings pop their heads up above the soil. But they will eventually, don't be despaired if you don't see them popping up within a week. They will eventually put their heads up, but just make sure that the soil underneath is still nice and moist. Now, we have rain coming again on Wednesday. Today is Friday. So in between that time, I may need to water once or twice. But because of the amount of rain that we've had over the past few days, I'd be very surprised if this soil dries up. Because we're still in winter, things aren't evaporating as quickly as when we get into spring and summer. So if you're doing succession sowing and it's getting further into November, December, January, you're going to need to water underneath the planks and just make sure that it stays moist. Don't overwater it, but you just want to make sure that it's moist enough so that the seed doesn't give up halfway through germination. Make sure to label where you have sown your carrot seed. Sometimes we're going to remember what sort of seed we've sown and where we've put that seed, but a lot of the time we forget. So make sure you've labeled where you've popped your seed, even though you've got the planks on at the moment, and that's a good indicator of where you've sown your seed. You will be taking them off eventually, and I recommend to mulch your row where you have put your seeds after you've taken the planks off. Mulching where you've sown them will help keep the moisture in and also keep weeds away, because weeds grow where soil is bare. Carrots are ready to harvest around 55 to 80 days, depending on the variety. But you can also tell when a carrot is ready to harvest when it reaches about an inch of width on the top of the carrot where the green is coming out. So that's a good indication as well. But I will be noting when I've sown this carrot seed and the approximate time that it will take for them to be ready, so then I can keep an eye on these carrots when it gets close to the time for harvesting. I hope you've enjoyed watching me sow these carrots and see what potato seed I have purchased this year. Please do subscribe to follow along, and then eventually in 100 days time approximately, we will be harvesting these carrots, which is very exciting. I can't wait to start harvesting carrots again. Okay, to finish off today's video, let's have a little look at the turnips and see if there are some more to harvest. There are some decent sizes in here. I did just harvest some really big ones last week, and I did note that there was a little bit of cracking in some of my turnips, and this is because of all the rain we've had. But here we go, we've got a little mini one and a larger one. Still not as big as the ones I harvested last week though. So these turnips here can probably sit for a bit longer. Let's have a look down here. And I've got this netting over my turnips because the cockatoos came down and chewed into one. All right, there we go. There's our little turnip harvest for today. I just wanted to show you very quickly this amazing broadbean plant that came up all by itself. So there must have been some seed left in the ground when there's a bee crawling into the flowers right here. So at the start of winter, this had some flowers on the base, but there weren't any bees around to pollinate them. And I only ended up getting one pod from this massive bush. So it shows you even if you do plant them early, you're still not going to get a crop until the bees start coming back out again. And actually the soil starts to warm up enough for these broadbeans to think, oh yeah, I can put flowers out now. We're going to get a huge amount of broadbeans from these now that the bees are coming to pollinate them, and also the fact that they're actually producing flowers. But this broadbean is actually producing more shoots down the bottom here. So it's really interesting to watch this grow. But it shows you that even if you do sow your broadbean seed out late in autumn, it doesn't really matter because we're all going to be pretty much receiving broadbeans at the same time, because the ones that I've sown 2 months after this plant came up in the garden, they're producing flowers right now too. So it's interesting to watch, but because of our cold climate here, we just don't get broadbeans till the springtime comes along. However, the maturity of that broadbean plant compared to the ones that I sowed in the ground a couple of months later, these ones are producing flowers now, but they're not as tall and there's not as many flowers. So it's just interesting to watch. If I had sown some earlier on, yes, they might be big and they might have more flowers on them, but we still wouldn't get an earlier harvest from them. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what the harvests look like and how tall these ones grow. And that's another reason to stick around here and subscribe, because everything happens slowly. We're not just planting seeds and doing a harvest here. We're observing nature. We're observing our garden and what happens when we do certain things. So I find that really fascinating. And yeah, I'm looking forward to harvesting some broadbeans, although I still have broadbeans in the freezer from last year, so we better get eating those before we start harvesting these. Thank you so much for joining me today, friends. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now. Now I've just got to work out where I'm going to plant my first potatoes. And I think this row here is a contender.